Kayla Anderson.
Here.
Jeremy Koenig.
Here.
Therese Bjornstad.
Here.
Rachel Schoenfelder.
Here.
Jennifer Tift.
Here.
And Superintendent Bob Joshua. Here. And myself, Ryan Reister, here. Jeremy, would you be kind enough to read the visions and disclosure, please?
The mission statement.
Yes.
The mission statement of the Red Wing Public Schools is to educate and inspire all students as they realize their full potential and become respectful, responsible, and productive citizens.
All right, please stand for the pledge of allegiance. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I gotta approve the agenda. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda? Motion by Ms. Schoenfelder, second.
I'll second.
Second by Therese Bjornstad. All in favor of approving the agenda, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. All right, do you want to do the educational plan or we have else? Oh, yeah. All right. Student showcase, please.
So I understand kind of called an audible here.
Yeah, I got stuck with it. So the intention tonight was to have Rachel Fritz, my art teacher at Sunnyside, and Amy Cavagnetto, my music teacher here presenting, but you're stuck with me instead. They both live out of town, and with the threat of some severe weather, they were not terribly comfortable. So I said, that's fine. I'll hang out at the high school during the tornado. It's fine. So, so instead you're going to be stuck with me, but I'm still really excited to kind of talk a little bit. I know we had a couple board members that were able to make it, our Sunnyside Performing and Visual Arts Showcase. So those of you that have had kids come through Sunnyside know that Amy has done a wonderful job with music concerts for a lot of years. It's always amazes me what she manages to coax out of 5 and 6 year olds. It's pretty impressive. This year they did something a little bit different. So she and Rachel, my art teacher, kind of got to talking this fall and decided that they wanted to expand it so it wasn't just the music concerts, but that there was a visual arts component as well. And so, Lisa, if you want to go to the next slides, we'll buzz through these first few. So one of the things, they were looking at is really a very welcoming atmosphere. You walk into a gym full of risers and chairs. This year we had the art component added, so it was fantastic for folks as they walked in to really see. You can go to the next one, Lisa. Also a higher level of engagement for families. So before and afterwards, we had folks walking around, able to take a look at the art pieces of it. Go ahead to the next one, Lisa. And kids were just super excited. I mean, they're always excited, but I think adding the art piece of it this year too was really cool because they not only had the pride in the music they were performing, but every student also had a piece of art as well to show to their families. So these are always really fun days. Kids are always super excited, super happy, a little nervous. Some of them, you get some butterflies, but it's kind of a neat opportunity too for them to kind of work through those. And afterwards, they're always excited that they made it through it. Go ahead to the next one, Lisa. So basically what they did this year was that since they made this decision to kind of do it early, Rachel, our art teacher, basically collected pieces of work from every Sunnyside student. So they basically were 8 different kindergarten projects, 7 different first grade projects, and then a variety of some additional artwork as well. And she provided Amy with kind of a rough draft then of the curriculum. Go ahead to the next slide. And then the cool thing was Amy then took the art projects and she was then able to find music songs that really coincided really nicely with the artwork. And so it was really kind of enhancing the visual pieces of it with music that really kind of fit it well. So every student had either a vocal part or an instrumental part, showcasing their individual talents as well as the group. And it was, I would say, highly successful. I mean, I think kids did a fantastic job. Go ahead to the next one, Lisa. So kindergarten, our cool kindergartners, their theme was "Look What We Can Do." All right, go to the next slide. So these are kind of the songs and how they paired up. So their first song was a song titled "Look What We Can Do," and that was paired with this concentric circles project that Rachel had done with them in the art room. Then next was "There Must Be a Rainbow" was the song title, and that went along really nicely with the line rainbows that the kids made. So it's kind of hard to see; it's a little bit small, but each different color in the rainbow has a different style of line. So this is when they were working on line. And then the next one was talking about the moon, and it was paired with Little Fox. And you can kind of see the moon in the background there behind the tree. They were working with different shades of color, different tones of color. So they were all around blue, but it was really almost white in the middle and more blue added to see how that changed the color. Go ahead to the next one, Lisa. And then the next one for kindergarten was Better Bundle Up, and that was paired with the Winter Mittens Project and Little Bear Sweater. We've Got Heart, which was paired with these Raleigh hearts that they made. And then Room at My Table, which was paired with the Alphabet Soup Project. And Rachel does a nice job. A lot of her projects, while they're working on those fundamentals of art, she also does a really nice job of kind of connecting them to artists from a variety of backgrounds around the world and different time periods. And so it's kind of neat exposing kids to that early. Go to the next one. And then our last couple in kindergarten were Everything Spring, which was paired with our Glitter Butterflies, and then My Friends in the Sea, which was paired with the Sea Creatures. So those were all the songs and the pieces of art. And it was really neat because they would do the song, and then Amy would turn it over to Rachel, and Rachel would talk about the project and what it was and how they worked on it. All right, and then on to first grade, if we can go to the next one. So our fabulous first graders, their theme was Discovery. Go ahead to the next one. So their song, starting with Discovery, that was paired with a mobile project. And then T-Rex in the Neighborhood, which is paired with these really cool dinos here. And then go ahead to the next one. And we had the Colors of the Sea, and that was paired with Woven Jellyfish Project. So you can kind of see how it's a rainbow, but then all the tentacles hanging down. And then anybody want to make a jack-o'-lantern, which was paired with this Brito Pumpkins project. Think Spring, which was paired with Negative Space Butterflies. I was actually in there for part of that one. And it was funny watching kids because they wanted to naturally, like, can I draw the body? Can I draw and so it was a little bit of a struggle to understand that, no, it's negative space. We don't put anything in there. So she did a really nice job with it. And then go ahead to the next one. And then we have Identity that was paired with their self-portraits. Listen to the Beat of My Heart, paired with these Peter Max hearts. Read, paired with Pete the Cat, which if you've ever had a 5 or 6 year old, you know that Pete the Cat is huge among the 5 and 6 year old crowd. Go ahead to the next one. All right. And then, this I believe is supposed to be a video, and I don't think it's working necessarily. Lisa, you want to try to go back to that one? Yeah. Well, shoot. That's supposed to be a video, and it was really great. So you're just going to have to imagine it. Go ahead to the next one, Lisa. And one of the things that was really cool is Rachel and Amy work really hard to really include, all of our students. And so, whether it's a student in kindergarten, whether it's a student in first grade, whether it's, students in our Setting 3 Autism Spectrum Disorders program, she does art with them at their level. And so everybody has an opportunity to be a part of it, which I think is fantastic. All right, go to the next one. All right. And then they wanted to thank a few people here to wrap up. So they wanted to make sure that we gave thanks to Peter Johnson. He's our PE teacher. And basically, he's a good sport. He more or less gets kicked out of the gym the whole concert week. And so he gets creative. If it's nice, he's outside. But like I saw him one day working, they were doing cup stacking, and he finds things for them to do. He also helped quite a bit with putting up the artwork and acted as the light technician at the shows. Sunnyside custodial staff and really the district buildings and ground staff, setting up and taking down the stage and the chairs and all those things is not a small job. And they were very patient with the messes that were made. And then finally, they wanted to thank Sunnyside admin and staff for flexibility and support. During that concert week, we end up rearranging a lot of things, and everybody's always super cooperative with that. So So that was the music and art showcase. I think they probably would have done it much better than I would, but that's what you get tonight. So it was really cool. And I heard a number of comments from families that were there, folks saying this is really cool with the art component of this. People I think really enjoyed it. So yeah, that's what we got. Any questions?
Was the plan to continue with it?
I believe so. I do know it was a large undertaking. So what it was left with afterwards was, we'll see how it goes, and we might have to take a break at some point for a little bit. But I think the plan for now, at least, is to try to continue it. But yeah, they put a lot of work into it. Pretty cool. Thank you.
Thank you.
Now we'll move on to public comment. Ms. Plank, is there anyone else here for public comment? Did you fill out your,
I wrote my name down.
oh, okay, I'll grab that in a second here. Amber, would you like to go first? Before we start, I'm just gonna read off the reminder here. This is an opportunity for residents, businesses, and property owners, parents and guardians, students and employees of Redland School District to address the board. We ask that you adhere to the guidelines set in place by District Policy 206 regarding public comments. This is a listening opportunity for the board and not a time to debate an issue. You are prohibited from making comments about specific students, staff, or administrators. The board respects and values input from the public, but when it relates to a specific student, staff, or administrator, such input must be heard by the appropriate personnel, such as the building principal or superintendent, and not during an open meeting of the school board. We require that you limit your remarks to 3 minutes. You are allowed to yield your time to another person. It is expected that members of the public will address their remarks with civility and respect. Whenever you're ready.
Okay, Amber Plank, Ward 4. So I actually had written out a speech and I practiced it a couple times. I'm going to abandon half of it because I changed my mind. I'm going to add some different commentary at the end. But basically, I'm here today not because I want to be, but because I have to be. You allowed her to be bullied. You saw the signs. You had the reports and you did nothing. And some of you actually participated in her trauma. What happened to my daughter wasn't kids being kids. It was targeted, ongoing, and traumatic. And the worst part, it didn't end when the bullying stopped because the damage didn't stop. Since then, I've watched my child change. She's anxious, withdrawn, and angry. She's struggling, not because she's a bad kid, but because she was hurt. And no one at the school saved her. And she's acting out now because people in power and adults in this very room chose silence and inaction. When schools fail to protect children, those children carry the burden. You don't see the sleepless nights. You don't see the therapy sessions. You don't see her struggle, but I do every single day. My daughter's suffering is due to a failure of morality, policy, oversight, and responsibility. You failed on Messiah, and now you each need to do better for every child who is silently enduring the same pain that she did on your watch. I'm sorry. I'm just going to be frank with you guys because I'm at that point. The reason I abandoned the beginning of it was because I could say statistics for days, but let's be honest, it doesn't seem like you guys care. You guys keep on parading this Burnside Kindness Club in front of me and my child, and honestly, I think you guys are just trying to rewrite the narrative on everything that we have tried to say. Just because it's your experience that Burnside is kind devalues everything that we have said about the experience that my child has experienced. She is struggling right now, and I wish you guys even knew everything that we are dealing with as the after effects of all the damage that was done. And it's every single day that I'm seeing the after effects of everything. You guys can't even begin to imagine it, and I'm guessing you probably don't want to. But pretty soon, I'm supposed to be hearing back from you guys on the answer to the charge of discrimination. I hope you guys, I don't know. I don't know where we're at with that. But basically, I'm just letting you guys know that regardless of what happens, I'll be here until we get change. If you guys are sick of me, then do the right thing. And it's just that simple. And now I'm going to the city council meeting to speak there. Have a great day, y'all.
Thank you.
Man with you like, you can come up to the computer here. If you're ready for-
I think I'm the third one on the list.
Ann Ramsey? Yeah, go ahead. When you're done, would you fill this out, please?
Oh, sure.
In the meantime, you can certainly come up.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hi, my name is Ann Ramseth, and I'm here to express my concerns for my grandson and his struggles with dyslexia and the lack of meeting his educational needs for that. I have not had success with other approaches, so here I am. I don't believe as mandated he was screened for dyslexia by the school. In 2020, the family took him to Fairview Ridges Specialty Clinic where he was diagnosed. I believe this is the first year there is a teacher with credentials to teach dyslexic kids. Remember, he was diagnosed in 2020. Before this, he was not reading at grade level. His academic success has not met because the resources he has been given haven't targeted his dyslexia. The curriculum doesn't meet his needs. Our family has been put off for years, hoping the recommendations offered would work. It was always wait and see. He has fallen behind because of this approach. His dyslexia hasn't been met with evidence-based curriculum like Orton Gillingham and the Wilson method. He also has myotonic dystrophy, another struggle. The last two board meetings have resulted in a liaison and a tutor paid for by the district and approved by you for $2,800. I want the same consideration for my grandson and students with dyslexia and struggling students that are not afforded resources for their success. This should be of great concern. Because of the letters I have written with no resolve and phone calls that haven't been returned, plans that never have resulted in measured progress, I have turned to an advocacy group for support and direction along with his Mayo team. All students deserve an education according to your beliefs. This isn't cultural, this is educational. I hope I hear from you. Thank you.
Thank you.
And make sure you fill out that form so
Yeah.
we can get hold of you. Okay.
I believe there's one other name on the list.
I think that was just somebody who just checked in.
Oh, yeah, we don't know other students. All right. Recognitions and upcoming events.
I guess the big stuff that'll be coming on here, and then graduation is gonna be right around the corner, before we know exactly what it is. As far as some of the things that are going on within the school, I know that I haven't talked with the music department, but I know that they were gone last week to some contests. I talked to a few of the kids, and they said those went well. Sports are definitely underway as far as in the spring here now. I talked to Mr. Harmon today. Sounds like the baseball team's off to a good start, softball's doing pretty well. We have a lot of golfers that are quite young, but they're also off to a good start. I know tennis and I don't even know what else is kicking around, but there's a lot of track. Oh, track. Okay, that's the other thing, there was a track meet that was at home here last week, I believe last Tuesday. Had a beautiful day, something like that went well also. They participated in a track meet. I don't remember which group it was, but they finished fifth out of 18 teams. So again, there's a lot of stuff going on, and the participation numbers in the spring are really quite good as far as overall. Because roughly 10% of the student body at the high school is involved in track, just track. And then you take all the other sports and tack in there. So there's a lot of kids that are involved in a lot of activity. Which means a lot of moving parts. There's a lot of kids that, they're juggling all the stuff that they're doing, but they seem to be doing a really good job. So, those are, some of the main things that have been going along here lately.
I have a few. I've been lucky enough to attend some different events since our last board meeting. So one of the things I went to was the high school senior speech night. And so shout out to the speech team. I think they just finished their state meet
Saturday.
Yep.
Saturday. So congratulations to those kids. It was a great night. Jennifer and I, for the Flight Pass program, participated in mock interviews, and I was incredibly impressed with the students that I interviewed. They were articulate, made great eye contact, they have plans and goals, and they were all, every single one of those kids that came in was very impressive. So Sam Keeker and Mike Wendland, shout out to them. Here comes Sam Keeker. I just shouted out the interviews that we did and those students. Then the concert, like Mike said, we have to give props to Amy because she makes sure that every single kid in that concert has a moment to shine, whether it's stepping up to the microphone or playing an instrument. Everybody has a moment, and that's really cool. And I think it's great to build kids' self-confidence, to give them that opportunity to stand up and perform in front of the crowd. So, and then the last thing I went to was Earth Day on, is that Wednesday last week or Thursday?
Last Wednesday.
Last
Wednesday.
Wednesday, yes. So the students were amazing leaders for the kids everywhere I went. They were wonderful. It was FFA and kids
It really goes
shop
great
classes. I
when
mean,
you can
it's
have
tons of
first
people.
graders working with older kids.
Yes,
It's always a good mix, you
Yeah.
know, and the younger kids enjoy it, and so do the older kids.
yes, they did. I talked to one of the students that helped out with kids the next day, and she said, it was really fun, but boy, was I tired when I got home. I said, yep, I know. So, but it was just really great to see that program start up again. And so thank you to all the teachers, the parents who volunteered, the high school kids for their leadership. It was really a wonderful day.
Because it's been on hiatus for a while.
Right, right.
We just got notified by Ann that the sirens are going on down here. So if anybody's worried about that, and do we have a place to go in case we need?
This is
We're at-
actually
is it?
good.
Yeah,
Yep.
we're good. Okay.
We're already in,
Spot.
we're already in one of the shelter rooms.
Good. Go ahead.
That was all.
I had just to add to that, I was going to mention the state speech, and Isaiah Ricks is the student who ended up going to state, and they ended up getting 9th place in discussion, so that's. And then since we're talking about athletics, I don't know if everyone knows, but Red Wing does have an ultimate frisbee club as well, which is really cool, very active. McClendon is one of the coaches. They have 25 kids in it right now. So although they're not recognized by the Minnesota State High School League as an athletic department, they actually compete actually a couple times a week, traveling, having teams come here. So if you're interested in watching, it's really fun. Usually the games are at the middle school, Tuesday and Thursday if they're home. Sometimes they're there's one.
There's a course for middle school?
It's not
Or is it
It's
separate?
not disc golf, it's
Oh,
ultimate frisbee, so it's more like football, soccer, that kind of thing.
I think they play between us and First Covenant in that
Yeah.
flat down there.
It depends on where the
Who else has
field
what?
is dry.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a game ground.
Was Earth Day the only time we do the interactions between the younger students?
No,
Mentoring or-
no, we have 7th grade math buddies, and the 7th graders walk right to kindergarten at Sunnyside as another mentorship opportunity.
Those are always fun. The thing I know, I don't have anybody, but we have prom this weekend. Here. And then sometime in May is the scholarship night, the awards night. That's coming up usually.
Yeah, I can look.
21st.
And then I know there's some graduations coming up besides our own, like the Native American ones.
That's on May 14th.
Yeah, I was gonna say that, May 14th, thank you. And then I don't know when GCD or the Hispanic one is, I'm not
It's the 19th or the 22nd, they're looking at a possible.
We should get those out to people so they know.
Right. I can, check with Sherry about GCD graduation dates and send them out to everyone.
Is there any musical concerts end of the year coming up in May too?
There's
We
like,
should probably be finding when them are so we can get the word out to everybody.
There's a band concert on the 12th. May 12th.
there's like 3 of them, and then it's the Big Nine Music Festival as well, this Friday in Rochester. So band and music at the high school is going down for that.
Do you know when the Hispanic graduations?
I'm double checking because the date was just changed.
Also Burnside's concert.
Oh, we have second grade tomorrow, Wednesday, and then fourth grade will be on Thursday and Friday.
Okay.
What time are those?
Those will be at 1 p.m.
Bless you.
So lots of stuff that is going on, has gone on, and now we're in the sprint until the end of the school year because we're less than 5 weeks away.
There's no further events, move forward to administrative reports.
All right, so at Cobble, some of the main things that they're working on here now is registration, because we got, we're already preparing for things that are going on in the fall. Most of the classes are full, and there is a waiting list that's there. So, it's one of those things that'd be nice if we could figure out a way we could beef that up a little bit. A few things going on there. Sunnyside recently completed its spring fundraiser, the AFAX Fun Run. So they collect pledges there. Mike, where's the funds go for that? What's the?
So they go to our, what we call our Innovative Learning Fund. And so that pays for a number of different things, pays for a lot of busing for field trips. A lot of our field trips are paid through Red Wing Public School Foundation grants, but we pay the busing out of that. And then we do some granting cycles with classroom teachers where they can submit applications for funds for a variety of different things to really just sort of beef up what we're doing in the classroom. So preliminary numbers I did get today, we actually did very well. It looks like it'll be over $14,000 that we raised. So, which is fantastic. Yeah, kind of blew me away. So thank you to our families, very much so.
Good, that's outstanding. Twin Bluff, so they had a penny war competition. They raised about $1,400 for the food shelf, so 28,000 pennies. Mr. Bierman, how did they go about counting 28,000 pennies?
I'm not at liberty to say which facility let us use their coin counter for free, but we are very appreciative. 28,000 plus pennies.
So, kind of good timing, but it's been severe weather awareness week that has been taking place here recently, so that's been good. And then everywhere through the district, I've been working on the MCAs. Some of the other things we just talked about here, so the jazz lab and showcases. There is on May 9th, this is a good thing to get out there, the National Honor Society blood drive. So that's held here at the high school. I don't know the time that begins, but I know that they were doing signups for kids to be able to give blood during the school day. And we're doing that at lunchtime. Tower View, so they've been spring wildlife classes, making fishing rods, so there's a lot of neat things that they've been doing there. Down there to be working up with students on 2 resident artist projects beginning in April. So there's, again, some neat things that are happening there. And on April 2nd, the middle school and high school students, if they wanted to, they were able to attend a show at the Sheldon, a native rapper named Thomas X. That was, the kids who went had an awesome time. And it was a voluntary thing. They didn't have to go, but the ones who went, I think every single one of them that came back said, you should have been there. So that's a good thing. Buildings and grounds, lots of stuff that's going on here now as where stuff is greening up. So communication, there's a lot of things that were going on following the April 4th 3M event. we had here when we opened up the lab upstairs. Community ed, so some of the stuff they're doing, big stuff right now. The main thing is getting ready for summer because that's right around the corner. So the aquatic center is gonna be open on June 4th. Pending floods or any kind of other chaos like they had last year. So hopefully that's all good. Driver's ed, they're all going, they're all busy there too. So those are kind of the primary things that go along. So there's lots of stuff that's been happening.
All right. Any questions on any of those or updates?
Maybe, maybe you could talk to Alan. Had somebody mention last Monday there was some softball going on here, and we had some rain going on, and they moved the varsity to a field farther up. And people walked across the grass there, they said it was, so they got, everything got wet because of, we have a drainage problem or something that we should be, at least be aware of. And
I know Paul mentioned something about that to me the other day, so we're kind of trying to figure it out.
I don't know what all things to it, but the person just said, my shoes were all wet when I got there, but I watched the game. Granddaughter did well, so.
When we have our youth football up there, it's a soccer field, it's in between, in between the soccer field and the softball fields. I think there's a storm drain in there, but it just takes, it's level, so it just takes a long time to clear out there. If we get rain, it's pretty ugly here in football.
We need the rain,
Depends
but
on
we should be
what's-
able to have it rain at least like a couple days, a day or two, so, okay.
And a lot of stuff built on rocks up here that doesn't drain very
Rocks,
quickly. And clay.
A lot of clay up here.
All right, committee updates.
I'll speak about on the mascot a little bit. And I had a meeting with Johnny Johnson and Representative Altendorf to talk about that because it came up during our tribal meeting. And we are so blessed and so happy to have them, the Prairie Island, on board with this. And they've taken tremendous steps that we're even aware of with legislators and people throughout the state to work on this topic. And we had a very good meeting. Representative Altendorf's on board. What it was the Senate has a version in the omnibus bill, and the House hasn't done anything. It's not anybody's fault that she's going to try to get that language inserted into on the House side and have a vote for it. And she can't believe that it would be cross-party lines. It would die. She said people from the other parties will probably vote for it because they have representatives in those areas around the state that have tribal communities. So it was a very good meeting, but kudos to Johnny Johnson and Prairie Island, Blake, Grant, the council for all they've done on the topic, along with Bob and others. But I was just listening to them talking and how much I wasn't aware of that's been taking place behind the scenes on our behalf. And their behalf too, because they have significant value in the Eagle, and all that. So kudos to them and hats off. If this flies, we owe them a big thank you. We do it anyway, but they've been a big partner in helping us deal with this mascot and the potential cost it would be if we hadn't changed. And they understand that. So thank you.
Thanks, Jim. Moving forward to the consent agenda. This is just after page 2 there.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented. I'll second.
Motion by Ms. Schoenfelder, seconded by Ms. Tift. Any discussion on this before we vote? All right. All those in favor of approving the consent agenda, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. And donations and grants.
So donations and grants, there's, as is typical in the Red Wing School District, there are quite a number of them. I'll go through these pretty quickly. Corian Paints LLC, they donated 20 new canvases with an estimated value of $800 to the Red Wing Art Department. American Legion Post 54 provided $250 to the Twin Bluff Middle School Food Pantry and a matching $250 to the Red Wing High School Food Pantry. Nancy Wagner, $50 to VSU. The Red Wing Booster Club, $689.70 to the Red Wing Tennis Program. The Red Wing Rotary Club, $200, which went to Sunnyside Elementary in the honor of Mark Johnson, the 2024 Service Above Self recipient. 3M donated $11,706 to the high school industrial tech and Twin Bluff STEAM programs. Reese Refrigeration provided materials to the STEAM program. Glenn Clare Plumbing and Heating also provided materials to STEAM. Excel Energy did a mock-up gas meter, again for the STEAM program. Nick Richmond, $200, put towards a new tiller for Twin Bluff Middle School STEAM composting project. JP Stockton, $200 for track and field. The American Legion Post, again, they did those in March. They also had donations that were similar in April. Bethel Covenant Church and Ruby's Pantry in Ellsworth, $500 in the Aim to Achieve program. And Sherwin Williams provided $150 for the paint for the earthquake projects that just got done. So there's a lot of stuff that happened there. Again, the community is very generous. So thank you very much for each of those donations.
I'll make a motion to accept the donations and grants as listed.
A second. Motion by Ms. Schoenfelder, second by Mr. Koenig. All those in favor of accepting, I need a roll call, sorry, Resolution, we got the roll call, sorry. Mr. Bryan, how do you vote?
Aye.
Kayla?
Aye.
Jeremy?
Aye.
Mr. Isaac?
Aye.
Ms.
Aye.
Schoen-
Aye.
And I will vote aye as well. All right, superintendent comments.
So this will all kind of get included within, this as we get into the next couple items here, so we can go into the regular part of the, okay.
We'll go into the business items. Number one is TBMS, Safe Routes to School Boost Grant Resolution.
Freeman?
Come on, Sarah. Good evening, everyone. Everybody knows me, but I need to introduce Sarah. She's with Safe Routes to School. She's been here before.
Yep,
Not
too long ago, so.
And she's been an advocate to help us with the light system, crossing routes, the bicycle set that we got for the trailer. And we got to thinking, what else could we do? And Sarah's brilliant mind said, look at how old your tricycle is that we use for our adaptive stuff at the middle school. And so she helped, or actually wrote the grant and submitted, and we received about $19,400 for not one, not two, but 3 different adaptive tricycle setups, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I think that we, from the different one, let's see. 8 different adaptive bikes, and then also there's.
Yeah, but 3 different styles.
Oh, yes, 3 different styles.
For all different size people, and it should round out the fleet to where anybody that has a disability that we can get them involved in working and actually continue with the same program as their neurotypical peers. So, and it includes everything that we need to get it up and running.
Yeah.
Really excited.
Because originally the boost grant that we got for Burnside, that bike fleet, originally we did factor in to be able to buy some adaptive bikes, but then just things kind of costed a little bit more. So we were lucky enough to be able to apply again, and then we're granted funds for just adaptive bikes. So I'm glad that we can really do quite a few adaptive bikes rather than just one. So.
It's really nice to have the multiple styles as well as you can configure those things.
Right, it's front to back, side to sides, different sizes. We could have a kid and an adult together and have it still fit. So it's going to be awesome for that.
Yeah.
Any questions for us?
Are you with the, I didn't hear where you were.
Oh, yep, I'm with Goodhue County.
Okay. And I've talked to, the county engineer, Jess.
Yep.
About those lights on Pioneer Road for by the Glen Bluff School for the speed and flashing one. And he's, because I thought it was a county road, he said, oh, the city of Redmond has it. So is there anything anybody can do to get them to get something done with them? Because they're not a commission for about they're not working properly for about a year now.
Okay.
They sometimes flash, they do a speed limit, sometimes they're on, sometimes they're not.
I
And I
thought it
it's
was just during the
something
school
with the-
day,
It is,
but I don't.
the programming has been a little bit suspect on that, Jim.
Okay.
We actually had like happy holidays during the
Yeah,
holiday
I remember that.
season.
Mhm.
And then it goes offline and then they send in a work order because they're still under warranty and it takes time to get people out there. And it's not a fluid system at this
What
point.
Jeff said was that, City of Red Wing, Jay left.
Mhm.
And so they were going through transition, trying to find somebody there. And then they contact the vendor or whatever, and they're not responding that well. So if anybody can do anything, I think that they're a great tool there. Let's just get them using the way they should, be designed and put in for them.
Yeah,
Any help you can do would be appreciated.
okay. I can contact the new city
Do whatever.
engineer and see if he's,
Put your foot down
Up
and
to
say,
it.
God darn it, we gotta do this.
yeah,
Sarah says.
yeah. Yeah.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Thank you.
All right, thank you for your time.
All right, and then, so then we're just wanting the resolution signed and that's.
Yep.
All right,
They'll take care of that.
all
part.
right.
And you've got your paperwork.
So on this, we should have a motion to approve, supporting other things. Okay.
Okay.
I'll make that motion to approve the senior St. Charles to school boost grant. Also,
Sarah, can you make sure that they send up this document so we can sign it? Do you have something?
Or do
I'm
you
like,
need a copy of this?
Okay,
I think I just need a copy of that.
okay, we're fine. I just want to make sure I have your document.
Okay.
So the motion was made by Ms. Tiff to approve the resolution, to accept the resolution. And it was seconded by Ms. Anderson. Roll call vote, Mr. Bryan?
Aye.
Kayla?
aye.
Randy? Aye. Ms. Burnson?
Aye.
Aye.
Myself?
Aye.
And I will also vote aye. Motion passes. The resolution passes.
Jennifer, do you need a second? No. Okay.
All right. Next up, 3-year policy review, policies with no changes.
So there's a batch of these all the time, so this time, 9 to 10 of them, 605, alternate educational services, 607, which is resignation to grade levels, 612.1, development of parental involvement policies, Title 1, 701.1, modification of schools budget, 702, accounting, 703, annual audit, 705, investments, 706, acceptance of gifts, 710, extracurricular transportation, and 711, video recording on school buses. So my recommendation is we approve those policies without change.
Do I have a motion to approve?
Well, it says we don't need any action on it. Unless you want to make a change to the policy. Yeah, so we don't have any, so no change there, so.
Okay.
We have a question about policy 612.1. Looking through there, looks like we're supposed to, are we having annual meetings with these families and like how are we recording that, documenting that somehow?
Emily, do you know the answers to that?
They do virtual annual meetings with videos as well through a form as well as an in-person one, because they've had better availability of families for the annual meeting, which is just going over the policies. But they also then hold family parent nights where we've had a bingo night, they've had a movie night, we have an ice cream party coming up, and those are held 3 times a year as well with Title I families.
Is that just limited to Title I families?
It is actually, because we are what's considered a TAP for Title I, which is Targeted Assistance Programming, which is different than what they call school-wide title. We don't qualify for that. And so Title I funds have to be used a little bit differently between those 2 different types. So it can only be used for students that qualify for Title I.
Thank you.
All right. Finance report and budget discussion.
Okay, so the primary piece here is there's a document that I handed out to the board here. So on this, we had mentioned, workshop that we had here a week ago, that we were looking at a $1.7 million deficit we talked about. And we ended up asking the principals for areas that, of reductions. I hate to say things that make sense as far as reductions, because anytime we're having something like this, it does get to be a bit of a challenge. So on this, as a summary, and again, on these, none of these will include any specific names or anything like that, but district-wide, there's $75,000 that comes an FTE for custodial, and then a reduction in contracted services. At the high school, 1.8 FTE in licensed teaching and 1 non-licensed support staff. At the middle school, 2.0 FTE licensed teaching and a couple of general ed assistants. Burnside, 2 FTE of licensed teaching and 1 general ed assistant. At Sunnyside, 2 FTEs of licensed teaching, and with the athletic program, $25,000 there. So that total comes in at about $872,000. So the impact that we end up with that, so the kindergarten classes would increase to about 21 or 22. The first grade class size increases to about 24 or 25. Second grade classes increase to 26. Third goes to 28. Fifth goes increases to 20, or there's a little bit of increase there, but it's pretty flat because there's quite a few smaller, significantly smaller fifth grade incoming this year. The license reduction at the high school is a reduction in personnel, but not the elimination of a program. And the athletic department reductions would result in the elimination of 1 activity. So those are and then at the bottom there, you can see, we take the 1.7 that we have as a projected deficit. The proposed reductions that we have here would still require a little over $827,000 to be utilized out of the fund balance in order to meet our budget for the upcoming year. So we spent a lot of time on this. The principals put in a lot of work with this. In the main office, Lisa and myself and Emily went through these as much as we find what we could without, again, all this has impact. We fully realize that, trying to minimize it.
And this one's it.
Just, I have a comment and maybe a question to start. So the original spreadsheet that you sent us, I'm kind of looking at that now too, is that okay? That still applies? Okay.
And I did change it just a wee bit. There was one thing that I forgot to put on here.
Okay.
So,
What kind of stood out to me as just a little bit troublesome was just seeing the cuts in the teachers being made at the elementary levels, especially at Burnside. Because I know Sunnyside lost like almost an entire incoming kindergarten class to open enrollment elsewhere. So they were kind of undersized anyway in their classrooms. So I'm not sure that's as significant of a cut going into first grade, but Burnside concerned me, just with especially the third grade class sizes going up. And just in comparison, when I look at what the high school cuts were, and especially, I guess, I felt like those should probably be one of our most important things to look at, or in my perspective. And that those cuts are significantly more in terms of what that results in compared to some of the other cuts higher up in those grade levels. And when I specifically looked at like the high school cuts that were looking to be made, I did have questions because the only like 1.0 FTE being cut was listed as an industrial tech position. And so I'm just wondering, I'm not sure what that includes. Does that include like the ag class or?
No.
And the reason I'm asking is because we just accepted this huge, beautiful lab with electronics, and now we're looking at.
The part where we would end up with the reduction does not impact any of the stuff that's involved in it. So,
Can you help me understand what that does involve cutting, like what that results to in real class?
So we have, again, I don't want to get into it too far because then I have to identify the individuals.
Right.
So that's where my caution is, and it's kind of hard to do because we've got a smaller program here. But there would be an individual position that would be reduced, but it does not include, again, any of the parts that are related to machines, to electronics, and to those things, or the ag.
And the only other thought, maybe somebody who's had people register for classes at the high school. Sometimes it's really hard because I know, like, when the kids register for classes, they're told to register for a bunch of classes, like 14 classes, even though there's only like 8 classes that they're maybe gonna have actually on their schedule. And it doesn't factor in PSEO, it doesn't factor in some of the online programming that they're going to do. So in my mind, that's really hard to try to understand what classes or teachers or FTE you need in an area. And so, you know, that has come up as a question before, why kids are asked to register for a whole bunch of classes that they have no intent to take, to try to plan. Do you know what I'm asking?
I do, I don't know that I have an answer for you in that regard, because that's, the principal, Mr. Fuchs, and his crew ended up working on that. I don't have a good answer for you on
I'm trying to
that.
understand how you even right size the high school when I look at what the proposed cuts are, like we have fewer and fewer students, we have the fewest probably students in the high school compared to this list, and how you plan for that when kids aren't even registering for classes that they plan to take. You have, again, the PSEO and the online stuff kind of factoring into there.
So, I mean, what I ended up doing, so, the high school is still the largest of the 4 schools, followed by a couple hundred kids, because this year when you got approximately 500
Correct, for next year.
for next year.
Correct.
High school's at about 700. So Twin Bluff, or, Burnside. you're-
484.
Yep, so you're roughly at 500. So we went through all those, so like I say, we went through, I asked, each of the principals to come up with these, list of possibilities. And then I just kind of went through to see what's what, we went through everything. Some of the class sizes at the high school, they vary greatly, because you can have, for example, some of the classes within the shop are small, but they can combine those together and have multiple classes taught the same hour. Okay, so you end up with enough kids in order to complete a section. Then you may have some other classes, whether it's in language arts or social studies or whatever. Emily, we got some of them, the biggest ones by about 35.
35, 38, some of those core classes. So you have to look at what's required for graduation. You kind of take that, you have to take that into account when you're looking at FTEs as well, because of what's required each year for your credits to graduate. But a lot of our core classes they can range from like 25 to 35, I would say right now.
I think Rachel's point is you're potentially generating a false sense of interest. So you think you may need this teacher, you probably didn't. If you over register for classes.
No, Emily,
I am not aware of over-registering for classes, like I actually want to.
They do, they're asked to register.
This year too?
Yes, that's what I've been told by parents who have been registering. That they're asked to register for like 14 classes, even though they have no intent on taking multiple of those classes. Is it so they know which electives the students are interested in, so that they can then create a class size? I know
that's
that.
possible, I guess I don't have a specific answer myself.
So if we're at a time where we probably don't need to be getting creative with additional classes.
Right. I'm assuming, and with conversations that I've had with high school admin as a parent, one thing that they do is look at previous class sizes, so they understand exactly which what size have the classes been in previous years, so we know which ones are more popular. I'm talking particularly the electives, because those are the small class sizes and the ones that tend to get cut if we need to cut anything. And because they don't know exactly where students' interests will be each year, they have the kids write down multiple things that they might be interested in, classes, and then from there, they try to create classes with a teacher.
I just found the direction doc, that's what I was looking for. So they register for 14 classes, because that's 7 and 7 for each semester, and then you register for 4 alternate classes in case there's a schedule conflict, which is why those 4 are there. Because you might want this class and this class, but they're both offered second hour, and that doesn't work. So you register for the 14 classes they need for the entire year, and then also this year they had to do 4 alternate classes in case there was a schedule conflict.
So it's not necessarily 14 different classes, because many of the classes are all year.
Yeah, it's your 14 classes you take over the 2 semesters. So like AP Lang is technically 2 classes because you have to be registered for semester 1 and semester 2.
So I just to piggyback on that, so if it's true that they're like elective classes that they're putting there, and these are students who, let's just pretend the elective class is French, okay? And you have a student that says like, I don't care, I'm never gonna take French. Like, why would I register for it? So why? I guess that's the question I've been asked by parents, like, why are they having to register? They never are gonna take those extra classes they're gonna register for. But it's factoring into our planning.
The 4 are alternate if there's a schedule conflict. So in theory, it should be like, this is something I want to take, I can use it for this if there's an overlap, and they can always meet with their counselors, because if you look at the 14 you register, it's hard to even, as an adult or the student, to predict what could be the overlap for the schedule. So that's where like they have so many days to meet and like switch as well to meet once their schedule comes out.
Right, but that's what we base our like FTE and who we hire and how many.
But a lot
Staff,
of the FTE and that going based on what we currently have. So I don't know that we're significantly changing the offerings for the upcoming years. So we're kind of going on the history that we've got. Now, like a few years ago, oh, never mind. Something about yours.
I just wanted to make sure it isn't a way to protect, like, having staff at the high school, you really don't have the student numbers to fill a class.
I don't,
Do you know what I'm saying?
I know what you're saying, but I don't know that that's necessarily.
I got it. What I'm,
Go ahead, go ahead, I'll say it.
so what I'm hearing is you're concerned, Rachel, that they're registering for these courses knowing that they're not going to be in them. So then we're planning the FTEs based on those registrations, even though they may be PSEO or online portions.
Correct.
And are we accurately making sure that if this group we know isn't going to be in that class, that they're not represented in the FTE count?
Right.
Is that what I'm,
Correct.
okay.
Yep.
I just think this conversation should be more directed at the high school principal than at the school board meeting, getting different answers that we do. I mean, if you have somebody approaching you, you should get hold of the superintendent and the principal and discuss them with them before that's, good. Instead of us here, because they have the answers, we don't. And I apologize,
But it was just broken down into what
Well,
teachers and I
it
was.
sounds like you've had this conversation probably for some time. I took it as, for some time people have told you this, because we're in the second semester right now of the year, so they would have been
But the
signing up, registering in the first semester for both semesters with the extra, so you've probably known about it for a while.
No, but we're
Direct your
looking to make
questions to the
cuts.
people, and then you might have had a better answer for us tonight in regards to this, so, certainly, Rachel's referring to the, I'd sent out a little more detail to the board at the end of last week, so they kind of had a little bit further background, so we didn't end up having to share anything that's, too identifiable as we're going through making some of these cuts. So, when we go through and we do this, I know that each of the principals, regardless of where they were, obviously a challenge in what you end up with, because nobody likes to end up with a cut in a program, and none of us like to end up with a increased class sizes, and we don't like losing good people. So what we did was we took the recommendations that we had there. I'm pretty confident that the people who gave me the recommendations know what they're doing, you know, so I have to kind of depend on that a little bit. And then with Lisa's knowledge and Emily's knowledge, and the background that we have there, so that's where that's the basis of the recommendations.
Just a last thing I want to say, it would be pretty easy to figure out if this is a problem. We have 5 kids in class, right? I mean, that's, at the end of the day, that's where things go. So, and I don't, it doesn't appear that that's.
No, I don't believe that's happening, and if it was, that's when, now when we hit registration, we go, oh man, we only have 5 kids there, that's where we can look, using that historical background in order to make some informed decisions.
I think Rachel makes a good point though, that from a proportion perspective, the biggest impact is going to be if we start getting teachers at elementary versus at high school level. So if we're going to be cutting teachers, I mean, it's not something I want to do, but a greater percentage may be taken from the high school than from the elementary school, and probably have a less impact on our students.
So there's a few things that, I did not include here that may give us some wiggle room going forward, depending upon, again, some personal situations that people have that could ultimately end up impacting their budget, in particular at the high school. If the board has concerns about reducing FTE at any one of the sites, then if that does indeed happen, there's 2 options. One is you end up going a little bit further with the fund balance, or then we end up looking at further reductions in another area. Right now, I don't honestly know what those reductions would be. Emily, can you,
So what we'll start getting to at the high school is core is really small if you look at how many core teachers we have at the high school already. So then you're gonna start to look at our electives and what I call our extra things that we offer that make our high school unique. Because then you're gonna start to look at the programming we offer that isn't required. And you don't wanna be like a bare minimum high school, right? Where you have just enough electives, just enough this to graduate. So when we looked at it, it was really hard to find. It's because those that were here last year, we cut a lot last year. We don't have extra. We're not extra right now. So it's really hard to find where we can find the money right now. But if, we can look at the high school again, but we're gonna start to lose unique programming that we have.
And if we're talking about, as we have at every meeting over the last several months, enrollment and drawing people here, one of the reasons people come here is because of the opportunities that our high school offers. And so although I would like to see the elementary class sizes smaller, I think we should continue that discussion here. With what Emily said, I would hate to have to cut some of those electives that make up the school. So having said that, do we have options, other options? Could we, one thing we talked about was $1 million from the fund balance. This is $800,000. Is there an option of increasing the amount that we take from the fund balance so that our first, second, and third grade class sizes wouldn't have to increase?
So that is an option, and that was, we talked about this initially. I talked about, about $700,000 in cuts and using $1 million here. We certainly went above, it's a lot better to go above and then make some adjustments there, kind of at the direction of the board. So, yeah.
I'm especially concerned about that third grade class size of 28 and even 26 in second grade.
Considering the information we heard last week about our percentage of children on IEPs, I imagine at the lower levels, the consequences is a strong word, but the consequences of having an IEP student in the class.
The impact.
Yeah.
That's better. The impacts at a lower level versus a higher level are probably greater. Especially for the entire class from, you've got 7-year-olds dealing with distractions versus a 14 or 15-year-old dealing with distractions.
What is a general ed assistant price of the cost?
So it depends on which one, but they're 25,000 roughly.
17 to 25,
Yeah,
depending
that's- I
on.
mean,
So you've got Jules and Jennifer's, well, additional fund balance. If you got about $172 $172,500, would that be enough for the two teaching programs at Burnside?
come on.
To eliminate the sizes that are proposed for the classrooms.
I think it's especially important when we're really focused on reading right now. That is such a crucial age level, to make sure we have readers.
So if we retain the 2.0 FTE at Burnside, is that what I'm understanding that we're
Yes.
kind of
That's my
targeting?
question.
That would be less than the $172,000 it would take us to set money.
Be in favor of that, but just still, you eliminate the one head position. Is that what you're looking for?
I think that would be.
So how would this look going forward? Are we gonna run into a point where
Yeah. You're gonna have to
we,
bigger cuts.
we're looking to increase our enrollment, and then when we get to that stage where we have increased enrollment, because we're gonna need teachers back, so.
So when, the good news is that once you set a budget, and then if your enrollment projections end up being better than you had anticipated, you can always add, along the way. I can follow what you're saying there. So if it's I can revise these numbers somewhat, but you can kind of understand there. So if the board is, kind of giving us the parameters of the approximately $700,000 in cuts, to be used approximately $1 million in fund balance. If I can work within those parameters, again, based on what I've heard here, looking to continue to support what we can at Burnside, is that satisfactory? Is that kind of what I'm?
I still think, the more we spend out of fund balance, the bigger the can's gonna be as we kick it down the road. But I'd be willing to spend, the approximately 500,000 from this fiscal year and 500,000 from the previous fiscal year, maybe up to, and I still think we have to show some degree of cuts, because we have to do cuts. I mean, we're 90% of this cut schools. So if we just eliminate the 2 FTE licensing teaching positions out of Burnside and leave everything as is on your proposal, I'd be in favor of that. So it would be less than, you wouldn't be taking a full $1 million out of what I'm saying.
Correct, and I do think I have I'm cautiously optimistic that we're gonna be able to find some additional reductions there that, but I just didn't identify any.
I make a motion to, unfortunately, this is a very unpopular topic for the 7 of us and the leaders of the buildings and the superintendent and staff. It's not something that you put your whole $2 down to serve on this board you want to do, but somebody has to do it because we have to have a balanced budget. I'll make a motion to reduce this amount here of, I don't know what the exact dollar amount is, but retaining the 2 FTE licensing positions at Burnside and the rest of the proposal cost summary for FYI 26 going forward with up to
or under $1 million is from our fund balance used to balance the budget. You know, that, can I repeat that? There ain't no way, because I don't know. I understand.
I'm not sure why we're excluding Sunnyside.
Sunnyside has got, they had one more additional teacher last year, and our enrollment came way down in kindergarten. So we have less kids going to first grade than we did last year.
May I say something? I think that.
You need a second before.
Before we can discuss. Okay, I'll second. Then
Okay,
can I say something?
motion by Jim Bryant and seconded by Teresa.
I think that, that kindergarten class, as it came to us, being able to keep those class sizes at 18 was a very fortuitous thing, because if you will remember, 40% of those little people,
Just in case somebody wants to come here.
came to school ready. Their fall fast bridge, 40%, around 40%,
46.
46% were not where kindergartners should be. And so if you had them in a class of 22, now what was ours? Do you know, Emily, where
They
we're
had a
at
lot
now?
of growth. I had it last meeting,
Yeah,
but I've looked at a lot of data since then.
yes,
So
I asked them,
with
and
MCAs,
those kids showed like
It's
60-some%.
an aggressive growth we look at.
Yes.
That's a different thing. I can talk different data because you have
Okay.
proficiency level and aggressive growth. You want
Right.
growth. Because kids cannot move proficiency but have aggressive growth.
Right.
So, Mike, it was pretty high.
He's trying to pull it down. Yeah, pull it up.
Yeah, I thought you said 60.
Probably between aggressive growth and typical growth is 60%.
Right.
There's 4 levels of growth.
Right. So I think that if we are going to, we can't really, we're starting from behind. They walk in the door below where they need to be. And if we're going to chip away at that gap every single year, which is what we need to do, right? Principals here?
Yes.
Yes. Increasing class sizes is not going to do that.
The difficulty that we run into is at some point, we gotta figure out how we're gonna pay for all this.
Right.
So, right now, we're asking for upwards of $1 million to be utilized out of the fund balance. If we end up not making any reductions at Sunnyside, that's roughly another $150,000 there. So, then our numbers are getting a little scary for me.
Did we look at, for admin, consolidating any of those positions?
Yep, we looked at, honestly, we looked at everything kind of across the board. We looked at everything from within the admin. Like I say, we went through all this.
Including this, we had talked about using some of this fund balance to, possibly with busing or something that could save us money. This is my concern is that, we're gonna do this year. If there's not significant change, we're gonna be having the same discussion 1 year from now, correct?
That is correct. We're gonna have no matter what we do,
It's bigger.
no matter what we do, we're gonna have some significant disruption next year in how we are doing things.
And I should have prefaced that, perfect world, we'd all like small class sizes, but we'd all like to, everything that goes with that education. It's, the reality is we're not getting any favors from the state of Minnesota or the federal government. And it's a real, this is a real, and again, I'm not against what is proposed right now. I'm not
Yeah,
saying,
no.
I'm just adding to the conversation.
Right.
Like, we need to either get on board with this right away and start having some serious, whether we can increase our compensatory funding. If there's a way to do any of this, we need to start, and maybe we have, and that,
Well,
That's
it's all
one
things
thing
that
that we
are,
should talk about is our compensatory revenue and if we're adequately receiving. So the information that I provided to you last week, I think we're missing about what the delta is here between the two, what's proposed and what we're paying out of fund balance, just based on what the other big 9 schools are paying. You know, if you look at the per capita income for Red Wing compared to the other schools, we are not the highest per capita, but there's schools that have a higher per capita than us that have a great percentage of students in their compensatory funding. So that's an exponential increase for looking at us. So we should be contacting the schools. What are they doing differently to get
Well,
these
that's,
numbers?
I mean, those, the way the funding formula is set up, we don't have any input into the compensatory funding stream. The only thing, so the way they've changed the funding here now is, so there's called direct certification. So basically, anybody who is involved with certain programs within the county or at the state level, they go directly, like I said, it's called a direct certification. It used to be such that we had these paper forms that we would fill out, and that fed into it. So there's a difference there. So we don't have any control over what percentage of our population participates in assistance programs.
We have the same tools that these other schools do, and they're succeeding better than we are. So we should be figuring out what tools they're using. So what limitations do
Their
we have?
populations are different,
They are different,
so that's where your difference comes in.
but if you look at the equation, it's functionality both the percentage and population. It's a ratio, right? It's a ratio of the number of students per class as well as the number.
Percentage. Yeah.
It's a ratio of the class times the actual number of students.
Right.
To give you that value. So, and it does vary from school to school based on the population.
And the difference in that formula by just a few percentage points makes a big difference in the amount of compensatory there. So, so anyway,
So I'm just saying it wouldn't hurt to reach out to these other schools to see how they're getting those values.
I can.
And I know, oh, go ahead. I was gonna say, I know we've had this discussion before. Emily, maybe you can speak to this. What have we done to, and maybe you're not the one to ask, but what have we done to make sure that the students that are eligible for compensatory funding?
So in the past, so right now, again, the way the formula ends up working right now, anybody that, we don't have any control over. If Kayla's family is participating in some sort of an assistance program there, that gets fed into the formula. We don't have any input in that whatsoever. In the past, again, the big push was making sure that people fill out those educational benefit forms, because there's a lot of times where people would perhaps qualify for educational benefits who they thought, we never would qualify, so they didn't fill them out. We did a full court press on trying to get those filled out at the beginning of the year. We have events at each one of the schools where we encourage families to come in and fill those out. So I mean, it's certainly a challenge there. Right now, the legislature, they're talking about making changes in how compensatory funding is ultimately figured out. And I don't know what those look like yet.
Yeah, I guess when I hear it's hard to do this. This is going to be a difficult thing to do, and I think that's easier than cutting teachers. That's the way I'm looking at it. Like, we should be doing our due diligence on the other end to make sure we're giving the revenue we deserve.
Which I believe we do.
But the baffling thing then to me is you have these other school districts that have higher income.
There was a
But
document.
Can I finish, please? But these other schools are having higher income rates, but they've got a greater percentage of their students are qualifying for compensatory revenue. So that's just a factor of percentage of families that qualify based on their income. Regardless of the size of the school. Right. So that's that exponential increase that you will see.
We have You were saying though that we don't have control over that anymore. It's
No.
not based on the forms, it's a formula based on direct aid that families get. Correct? So we don't, it's,
I thought it is still like we rely on families to complete that information.
So they used to be, those were fed directly. Lisa, you look like you were going to say something.
just the fact that we still want to encourage families to complete the educational application benefits, because when they do so, if they're eligible for free or reduced meals, that will change the number of meals that the federal government will cover versus how much the state will have to cover as we move forward. So please don't get the idea that we don't want to encourage the completion of those forms. We do. But the legislation is that compensatory aid will no longer be based on that data.
Right.
solely or at all.
Moving forward, they will not include that data.
And actually, this year, they did not.
They did not in 25 either, no. So it's solely now direct certs and what was recorded in each county as to the number of families, the percentages of free or reduced eligible families.
So, correct, so then the same process is occurring at all the other schools. So we should understand how these other schools are getting families that make less money than them are qualifying versus us.
A lot of school districts were very surprised by the shift in the compensatory aid. Some schools got a whole lot more than they expected because they didn't realize. Others didn't see that at all. So, I mean, that's the whole conversation behind the governor's proposal, to try and find a way to hold us harmless for those of us that have lost so much based on that new formula. The challenge I have in hearing what you're asking for is families apply at the county for various different services that may be offered. If a county doesn't offer as many of those services, or a county isn't, handling things the same, I'm not sure how we get involved with that.
Teaching, right, we can teach these families. Right, we can teach these families to apply for these services. Just communicate, it's something that we can communicate with the public, that the benefits to our school, and everybody that deserves this is applying for it.
I suggest we have this conversation at a workshop. I think it's a very good conversation that many of us don't know about. But you said you handed in some stuff and you're talking about, I'd love to hear more about it, but in more of a setting where I have some information ahead of me to ask questions and look at. I'll prepare what I can for the upcoming workshop. But
Yeah, the basis for bringing it up is I feel more comfortable with us looking forward for future resolutions to say if we use our fund balance, but we have a plan to acquire revenue that we deserve. I'm more comfortable with that because next year you're going to run into the same problem if we're not actively receiving this compensatory revenue, for instance, that we deserve.
Or without large increase in.
Correct.
Which brings me to another, go ahead.
Sorry, I was just gonna say, or other options maybe part of the workshop is talking about our plan going forward. If we approve this tonight, we should start immediately understanding what do we need to do going forward. Do we need to go to the community, our voters? Do we, what are our options?
Yeah, there's the revenue side has to be looked at. And we talked about the last meeting too, about how education's gonna look in the future. We threw some ideas on the table, I don't know if they stuck or not, but this should be part of that conversation and how we're looking at things going in 26, 27, which is kind of hard to imagine, but it's right around the corner. Yeah, and it's.
And also the possibility of surveying, I think we've, discussed too, of community and get the community engaged with and get some data on why our enrollment's down, why, and we can all guess at it, but it would be, at least it would be real-time information, so, yes, of course.
Just one thing too that, I know I brought up last year when we went through all these cuts, was, in regard to the athletics and activities department. I was curious at that time, and still am,
how, I asked Paul at that time to see how we compare for a district of our size, for how many athletics and extracurricular activities we offer, if that is in line with other districts our size. Because we have fewer and fewer students, and we're adding more and more activities. And like we just approved our last meeting, we just added a almost $3,000 advisor position. So all of those come with cost of advisors or coaching staff or, all the things related to it. And we offer a lot, which is good, but I just want to know if that's in line with a district of our size, or if that also needs to start having a cut, not just because we have a few participants in one sport that gets cut, but like just across the board, are we offering appropriate numbers?
Discussion, with the president on that. And I can bring that information to the next week.
All right. Any further discussion?
So if we want to amend the motion to also not include the Sunnyside.
You got a motion and a second. Got a motion and a
Right,
second
well-
on the proposed cuts
I don't
to
think,
Burnside.
I don't think it included the Sunnyside.
No, it did not.
So are you saying to amend it to include
I
that?
thought it did include.
No, it didn't.
No, just Burnside. The two Burnside positions. You asked about Sunnyside.
That's right, so do we need to amend it if we wanted to also exclude the cuts?
I'm not. I'm
Oh,
not
I
willing to
see what
amend
you're
it.
saying.
Wait, I don't want the can to be too big down the road, so.
I think
So-
I'm just looking at it being, a lot of these things are short-term solutions without long-term. So if you are continuing to cut or continuing to increase class size, it's not gonna help grow the program in the schools. And that's my main concern is we're not really discussing, we brought up, how we could invest later on, but I feel like that is something that we need to talk about is how to invest in making a change so that we're not doing another $2 million. We can't keep doing that because it's not gonna retain even the people that we have now, even the students we have now, or teachers. And so I think it's really important to look at this stuff and just, really pay attention to what it's gonna do long-term to the community and to the school.
So at this stage, I'm having a motion in a second. So at some point here, we will end up required to take a vote on that. So then, after that, because you can always have a different motion if you so desire. So you do have I have a motion and a second.
When we started talking about Sunnyside, I heard you say that is something adding or taking additional money from the fund balance made you uncomfortable.
Well, I mean,
And I understand it has nothing to do with Sunnyside.
no, this
but
is strictly
it's the
from a
whole-
numbers, just
Yep,
from a
yep.
numbers side, it's like anything else, whatever we don't address now becomes compounded down the road. All of these things are valuable, all the statements that you made are accurate, I don't disagree with anything that any of you have said. So,
I think Therese made a good point though about you start increasing those class sizes at very early levels, you're gonna have a greater impact on your performance.
yeah, I mean, your best bang for your buck comes in those numbers.
You say we vote on it and then you make a motion.
So you make a motion, the motion on the floor, you vote it up or down. At that point, if it passes, it's done. And then you can give direction to the superintendent to see if we have some cuts, if somebody retires, to go back and look at Sunnyside first. Or something like that, but if it passes, it passes, if it doesn't, then you have to have a second vote, second motion. Yeah, you have to have a second.
And so the motion is not only with the cuts, but it's also giving these the fund balance.
Up to $1 million, no more.
So I just got my calculator out, and you said 150,000.
Roughly.
That would put us to $1,007,510
Reduction,
into the fund balance.
no one.
Yeah, because, oh, wait,
No, you're not including, you get the 191 out of there.
okay,
1,750
Never mind.
from 191. We've been working on this finance. thing,
I know,
remember?
you tried so hard, Jim.
And it would be about another 150.
Approximately, I mean, without sitting down and doing everything here. Approximately.
Yeah, but
Call the question.
Read down the top of 827.
Call the question.
All right. So at this point, the motion on the floor is to approve.
So basically, it's to approve the recommendations that are made here, taking out the 2 FTE at Burnside. So then that would adjust the overall amount, and we'll see if we can find that. We've got the correct idea.
I have one last question.
can I ask before you do?
Yes.
Just about the motion, you want the motion to include, not to exceed $1 million from the fund balance? You had said
That's what I
that
heard
you want
before.
that to.
Yeah, up to.
Okay. Up to.
So if we pass this, can we make a second motion or another motion to include the positions at Sunnyside?
Yes.
Okay.
All right. Go ahead.
I thought you didn't have, if you didn't pass it, you would have a second motion.
Yes.
That's what I heard.
Yeah.
You just said that.
Okay,
Oh, I'm
so
sorry.
if we need to fail this motion, if we want to include Sunnyside.
Technically, yes. Remember what you're doing though, if you do fail the motion.
Yeah,
You're just
then,
increasing more money out of the fund balance.
right,
And we have last year, we had, 8 kindergarten teachers when we only had, for 7. So you're not reducing anything by keeping the 2 Sunnyside teachers still in there, so. This is not an easy thing to do, but it's the thing Bob and his people around him have come up with a good proposal, and we modified it for about 150,000 more. If that's not enough, then you're not gonna get my support on the second. So, call the question. That means ask for the vote. Please.
All right. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 All opposed?
Nay.
Nay.
I believe it might be in your best interest to
Roll call.
file that roll call. I don't know who all voted.
Roll calls.
Roll call, so that'll be the cleanest way.
Yeah. Jim?
Aye.
Kayla?
Me.
Me. Terese?
Aye.
Aye.
Jim?
Aye.
And I have one aye.
Passes.
Motion passes.
So the motion carries. And we'll do what we can within this. I mean, like I say, this is where we're working from here. If we can end up with some other reduction somewhere, we can adjust this back the other direction if it works out.
Right.
The big thing is at this point, not to exceed the 1 million. So we'll do it, we'll do what we can here to, again, try to mitigate what we can. And each year, I could be wrong here, I don't have any foundation, any data in front of me, but normally the last 2 months of the year, you get somebody that all of a sudden, something changes and they leave for another position. So we went through this, it was here Friday, we got things sent out at 9:40 last night, something changed. Yeah. So this is, the budget's a work in progress as we go forward. And we said we were gonna do something to fix this year, and then we look at the longer term effect, which we do, and Jeremy brought up some very good things on top. Compensatory funding that I wasn't aware of, but I'd love to have a discussion about it once I have more information about it.
Well, I think I agree, and I think it needs to be community survey possibly, to see if that's feasible. If, into the compensatory funding and all other revenue streams, but it's, again, we're looking at it all.
Well, it would be interesting to add to the survey if people would be willing to pass a referendum to lower class sizes and maintain offerings at the high school.
So we can have that at the next workshop, as we talk about.
Yeah. So,
I guess I just heard the $1 million as a hard and true value, but we have to be honest with ourselves, that's an arbitrary value. We're looking nominally $1 million, not hard and true $1 million. So we're willing to cut, some teachers just for that nominal value.
Right. The biggest thing is that if we are gonna be making some staff reductions, people need to be informed, because there are certain timelines that have to be met in that process. We can reduce some of these positions, and then a month later, we can call them back. But we can't not reduce them and then decide later on, oops, so a lot of it ends up being time.
But then you potentially lose those teachers that you were hoping to call back.
100%, always do it.
It's in the contractual rights of the laws that they have now. All right. Upcoming meetings and future topics.
Do we have to do anything with the non-renewals? At this point, no, so that was just pretty much covered here.
I've got Monday, May 12th for a workshop. And with that, we have a motion to adjourn.
so moved.
Second. All right, motion by Teresa Bjornstad, second by Jim Bryant. All those in favor of adjourning?
Aye.
All opposed? Meeting adjourned.
And then don't forget Thursday this week, if you're looking